voice of God calls us to awaken him. How will he find us when he comes?
Awake and ready.
And when he asks us to dedicate our lives more perfectly to him, how will he find us?
Awake and ready.
Heavenly Father,
Heavenly Father,
Divine Mother,
Divine Mother,
Friend, beloved God,
Friend, beloved God,
Great Master,
Great Master,
Jesus Christ,
Jesus Christ,
Babaji Krishna,
Babaji Krishna,
Lahiri Mahashaya,
Lahiri Mahashaya,
Swami Shri Yukteswar,
Swami Shri Yukteswar,
Paramahansa Yogananda,
Paramahansa Yogananda,
Saints of all religions,
Saints of all religions,
we humbly and lovingly
bow
bow before thee.
before thee.
We invite your presence,
We invite your presence,
your divine love in our hearts,
your divine love in our hearts,
your wisdom in our minds,
your wisdom in our minds,
your joy in our life.
your joy in our lives.
Make us your channels,
Make us your
that
channels,
we may transmit
that we may transmit
your higher consciousness
your higher
in
consciousness
this world.
in this world.
Oh,
Peace.
Amen.
Amen.
Good morning, friends. Have a seat.
Lord.
Let us start.
Life is a dream, time like a stream, carries our burdens away. Never despair, joys everywhere, love can befriend you today. Free from all care, like birds on the air, soar above griefs and worries, seek joy and be gay. Often on earth, things of great worth, worldly ambitions defy. Sometimes a friend helps us ascend up from life's cares to the sky. Love is a star, though shining afar. It can guide us and help us toward light to draw nigh. Love is a star, though shining afar. It can guide us and help us toward light to draw nigh.
Continue meditating on these words, the quality of the week devotion. No good end is ever reached without devotion. No true success is ever achieved unless the heart's feelings are involved. Willpower itself is a combination of energy and feeling directed toward fulfillment. In the quest for God, the unfolding of the heart's natural love is the form of deep devotion, is the prime requisite for success. Without devotion, not a single step can be taken toward him. Devotion is no sentiment. It is a deep longing to commune with and know the only reality there is. Now affirm with me, first aloud with eyes closed. With the sword of devotion I sever the heartstrings
With the sword of devotion I sever the heartstrings
that tie me to delusion.
that tie me to delusion.
With the sword of devotion I sever the heartstrings that tie me to delusion.
With the sword of devotion I sever the heartstrings that tie me to devotion.
With deepest love
With deepest love
I lay my heart at the feet of omnipresence.
I lay my heart at the feet of omnipresence.
With the deepest love
With the deepest love
I lay my heart at the feet of omnipresence.
I lay my heart at the feet of omnipresence.
With the sword of devotion
With the sword of devotion
I sever the heartstrings that tie me to delusion.
I sever the heartstrings that tie me to delusion.
With the deepest love
The deepest love
I lay my heart at the feet of omnipresence.
I lay my heart at the feet of omnipresence.
The sword of devotion
The sword of devotion
I sever the heartstrings that tie Now mentally, with this sword of devotion, I sever the heartstrings that tie me to devotion. With the deepest love, I lay my heart in holy love and presence. The deepest love, I lay my heart in the deepest love and presence. Beloved Father, Mother, God, I am thine alone. Let others seek thee or seek thee not. It matters not to my love for thee. Through all life's trials, my prayer is this alone. Reveal thyself. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. I'd like to welcome you all today. My name is Ram, and I came in as a pinch hitter for Karma Devi, who's doing healing work today on people who need it. This is a reading from the Rays of the One Light, the Bible and the Bhagavad Gita. These are weekly commentaries based on the teachings of Paramahansa Yogananda. By thinking, we can arrive at understanding. By thinking, can we arrive at understanding? Question. Truth is one and eternal. Realize oneness with it in your deathless self within. The following commentary is based on the teachings of Paramahansa Yogananda. There are many places in the Gospel where we see Jesus in open conflict with the Pharisees. That is to say, with man-made as opposed to true mystical tradition. In the Gospel of St. Matthew, chapter 15, we see a good example how he locked horns. Then some of the scribes and Pharisees from Jerusalem came and asked Jesus, "Why do your disciples break our ancient tradition and eat their food without washing their hands properly first?" Jesus, after scolding them for their hypocrisy and observing lesser rules so carefully, while ignoring the much more important ones, said, "Listen, and understand this thoroughly. It is not what goes into a man's mouth that makes him common or unclean. It's what comes out of a man's mouth that makes him unclean." It wasn't that Jesus counseled against wholesome practices as washing one's hands before eating. In an age, however, when lesser rules were given too much importance relative to the truly important observances, cleansing the heart of impure desires, for example, he emphasized the supreme importance of loving God and of communion with him. The Pharisees, the Orthodox religious of the day, in other words, had brought true religion down to a level of intellectual hair-splitting. They mistakenly considered the way to understanding to lie through a minefield of definitions, which they tried to refine to ultimate exactitude. Jesus taught, however, that the intellect alone can never lead one to truth. Without love, indeed, there is no ultimate verity. Without fixity of purpose, born of the heart's devotion, the intellect wanders endlessly. It cannot settle for long on anything. As the Bhagavad Gita says in the second chapter, the intellect of those who lack fixity of spiritual purpose are inconstant. Their interests endlessly ramified. Thus, through Holy Scripture, God has spoken through mankind.
I'd like to share one of Yogananda's Whispers from Eternity. These are beautiful prayer demands that he wrote. In fact, because we'll be celebrating Yogananda's Mahasamadhi, which is March 7th, this upcoming Wednesday. And Yogananda said that after I'm gone, read from my whispers. Eternally I'll speak to you through them. And he imbued these, with every, like his chants, he had a contact, a superconscious contact of God. And so if we crush the seeds of these whispers and his chants, we can tune into that eternal presence. This is, may the showers of thy love flood through the walls of color, class, and race prejudice. The kingdom of my mind is cluttered with the trash of delusion. Pour down showers of thy power, that my capital city discrimination be no longer mud-strewn due to spiritual carelessness. Send streams of mercy, inundating and washing away the filth of ignorance within myself. Let the downpouring of thy love cleanse dirty streets of race, color, and class prejudice. Bathe my untidy children of lingering prejudice in the waters of thy wisdom. Cover every dark path of my life with rose carpets of thy love. Inhaling thy fragrance and treading softly on a cushion of blossoms, I will run with hastening footsteps to thy palace of perfection. This topic of by thinking can we arrive at understanding reminded me of an amusing story. I grew up in an Italian family, and my father enjoyed The Godfather. And there, with this kind of movie, there's oftentimes a Godfather marathon where they would go through the 1, 2, 3. You don't have anything better to do with your life. But I went to visit my parents on Thanksgiving. This is, I don't know, maybe 10 years ago or so or something. And I was jet lagged, having gone cross country to the East Coast where my father lived at that time. And I couldn't sleep. It was 2 a.m, so I went down to see my father, who was in the basement watching The Godfather at 2 a.m. And I asked him a question about the plot because I came in midstream. And I found it so fascinating. And I said, Dad, why is this happening, such and such? And at 2 a.m. in the morning, he perked up with all of this energy and went to this intricate plot analysis for me, catching me up to speed on what was going on. The point of me sharing this story is that, isn't it true if we're interested in something, we have the energy for it? So if the worldly man, if we can have interest in a movie like that, why can't we have interest in God? Why can't we be fascinated with the Divine Mother, with our Heavenly Father, with our friend of friends? Why can't we? If we choose to place God first, we can have that. Like Yogananda says in one of his chants, search him out in secret. He calls God adorable him. Adorable him. Search him out in secret now. If we can have that kind of mesmerizing focus and attention to detail on our worldly duties, why can't we have that same energy and interest and desire for God? That's what Yogananda meant when he said to love God. This is the real secret to all understanding. It's that we can't think our way, reason our way to understanding. It's only when we love and accept. Our friend Jan, who Dharma Devi's been helping, was sharing. She said, I love animals because all they want is to be loved and included. And that's all I ever wanted in my life. I thought that was so sweet. Isn't it true? Everyone wants to be loved and included, versus what's happening in the world, right, which is more divisiveness and separation. But in order for us to love and include others, we need to feel that true unity with other people. Swami wrote a beautiful song called Brothers to that end. And there's a line from that song where he says, "One life beneath the surface binds everyone to me. Who knows himself knows all men as brothers." Isn't that beautiful? When we get to know, we truly get to know ourselves. Love our higher self. In other words, commune with our soul nature. Commune with God, to love with God. God is within us and within everything. So we don't have to travel around the world. You know, like St. Augustine used to say that man travels hither and yon for treasures, and yet he passes by the greatest treasure of all, his own self. You know, we're sitting on this empire. As Christ said, the kingdom of God is within us. This is where the techniques of yoga and Kriya Yoga can be so powerful, because they can help us to direct and focalize our devotion. But remember that the techniques without the heart, without the devotion, are devoid of value. It just becomes yet another technique for us to practice. It can become mechanical in this way. That's why we need to feed. It's the most important thing, is for us to love God. Like when that man came to Yogananda, an intellectual man, scientist, and asked that intellectual question about the universe, and Yogananda responded, "Love God." And the man thought, well, he just didn't get my question. I need to ask another smarter question. He asked a second question, and Yogananda said, "Love God." And then the man said, well, he's really not getting it. And he asked a third time, another intellectual question, and finally Yogananda just said, "Love God," and he walked out of the room. It's only when one of the meannesses of the heart, you know, that Sri Yukteswar talks about, that this whispers I was sharing, it's condemnation, right? This judgmental attitude. You know, and we have to we don't need to look into the world to find that. We need to look into our own hearts and expunge it. You know, the real work for us to do is right within our own self. If we can uproot that. But how do we uproot it? It's not by focusing more on it. It's by bringing in more light. It's by asking that Divine Mother shower us with her grace. I had the wonderful opportunity to take 2 Indian gentlemen on pilgrimage. This one man was Captain Padmanabhan, and he's a helicopter pilot in Mumbai, and takes people that are in the oil rigs off the coast of Mumbai out there. And so him and his friend were in town just for a couple days, and they only had about 3-4 hours in LA. So this was Friday when it was raining in Los Angeles, right, which is an anomaly. And he brought the shower of Divine Mother's blessings. But we just had this short window of opportunity to get to the crypt where Yogananda's body is in Forest Lawn in Glendale. And then we had another little window to get to Mount Washington. And usually they don't allow you to get up to Master's bedroom, but we had a half hour, and we got up to Master's bedroom. And they were so touched. And then he was able to go to Encinitas yesterday. And normally they don't let people into Master's bedroom there, except on a Sunday afternoon. But I said, just ask. And he asked, and he got into where this is where Yogananda wrote the autobiography of the yogi. And he said he just felt the Guru's presence, and he had tears coming down his eyes. So I asked Ram to sing that song, "The Master's Love for Me." There's no other love. You know, when we think of love, right, we think of love for a spouse or a friend. We can't fathom the Divine Mother's love and the Guru's love for us. You know, that French saint said to Swami, if you knew how much God loved you, you would die for joy.
Yes.
We can't fathom it, that there's this presence that's within us. So it's not the question for us is, how do we cultivate that love in our own heart? And that's why one of the last things that Yogananda Ji shared with his disciples before he left the body, right, just coming up here on March 7th, he said, no one can give you that desire, right? No one can give you that interest. No one can give you that fascination with God. That's something that you have to cultivate for yourself. I was sharing meditation with a friend yesterday who started his practice 10 minutes a day. And he asked, well, how long do you meditate? And I said, well, I have a longer meditation in the morning. And he said, well, what makes you want to meditate more? And he's a skier. I said, well, what made you want to go from blues to black diamonds? What made you want to go from the bunny slope to a greater thrill? Yet that's the draw of God's love. It's a magnet. And the more we offer ourselves into that magnet, the more we receive it, the more we're blessed by it. So if we can get into touch with that presence within us, it's the one healing, within all your problems, right? And which I'm sure we all have many problems that we could lay out. Physical disease, mental disease, right? And the greatest disease of all, our spiritual ignorance. All of our problems within one stroke can be healed in God communion. That is why I want to share with you today to cultivate this individually in your heart, to really go within. And how do you do that? That is where the meditation and the path of Kriya Yoga can help you. Because our mind, we think that we're free, right? We're free to choose, if we're free to just choose what we want to do. But how free are we if we're propelled by our desires just to keep on following those things that don't lead us to true freedom? But Divine Mother, she wants us to, God doesn't want us to experience pain. But the more that we place our heart in the hands of the Divine Mother, the more that she showers us with blessings. And it really, the extraneous things that happen to us will matter less when we get more in touch with that. That's why that one stroke of communion with God, it's the one thing. It's always the only. There is only one, right? That's the Sanskrit saying, Ekam Sat. Ekam Sat. Only one exists. The Israelites say, Hear, O Israel, the Lord your God is one. There is only one God. But how do we commune and how do we find that one God? We have to go within. And that's why this Yogananda had that special reverence for the Divine Mother. The Divine Mother represents the Om, that sacred vibration that ascends us, that lifts us, that's the power to help us rise spiritually. So the more that we can commune with God, the more that we can love God. And how do we do that? We need to take time to listen. I don't know about you, but I've got a monkey mind. I like it. It likes to chatter. I'm a doer. I like to do things that go from this thing to that thing to that thing. Bump, 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 right? How much time are we taking to actually stop? And I think as a culture, right, Americans have the karma yoga side of things pretty well. We've got that side down. It's now bringing in the balance of receptivity, of communing with God, of taking the time, healer, heal thyself, right? Take the time to practice active silence. And then try and bring that listening presence into everything that we do. And the more that we do that, the more our life will be blessed. I wanted to share this reading from the autobiography of a yogi. The Yogananda was quoting Charles Richet, a Nobel Prizeman in physiology. And he declared it as assumed that the phenomena which we now accept without surprise do not excite our astonishment because they are understood. But this is not the case. If they do not surprise us, it is not because they are understood, it is because they are familiar. For if that which is not understood ought to surprise us, we should be surprised at everything. The fall of a stone thrown into the air, the acorn which becomes an oak, mercury which expands when it is heated, iron attracted by a magnet, phosphorus which burns when it is rubbed. The science of today is a light matter. The revolutions and evolutions which it will experience in 100,000 years will far exceed the most daring anticipations. The truths, those surprising, amazing, unforeseen truths, which our descendants will discover, are even now all around us, staring us in the eyes, so to speak, and yet we do not see them. But it is not enough to say that we do not see them. We do not wish to see them. For as soon as an unexpected and unfamiliar fact appears, we try to fit it into the framework of the commonplaces of acquired knowledge, and we are indignant that anyone should dare to experiment further. I just thought this was powerful, that it's not, we don't understand things, we don't think them through and understand them. We accept things because they're familiar to us. So we want to get familiar and close to Divine Mother, because then we start to see that everything in life, we don't need to go and seek out phenomena, right, in our spiritual life. We want the noumena, we want the spirit, we want the essence of her within us. And we have that. We just have to switch our attention from the outer movie, right, to the inner being, which is projecting her life forever and forever in us. God bless you.